Americans for Fair Taxation presents the Weekly Chairman's Report, written by Steve Hayes, president of Americans for Fair Taxation, and recorded by Bob Paxton, a volunteer with the Florida Fair Tax Educational Association. And now, this week's Chairman's Report.
Hello, I'm Bob Paxton with the AFFT Chairman's Report for Friday, September 6, 2024. Labor Day, celebrating the contributions of workers. Monday, September 2nd, was Labor Day, a federal holiday. The first Labor Day parade was organized by the Central Labor Union in New York City on September 5, 1882. This event featured a public parade of various labor organizations, followed by a picnic and speeches by labor leaders. The parade was a demonstration of solidarity and strength among workers, and it set the precedent for future Labor Day celebrations. Labor Day became an official federal holiday in Oregon in 1887, and by 1894, 30 states were celebrating it. That same year, following the Pullman strike, a nationwide railroad strike, Congress passed a bill making Labor Day a federal holiday, which President Grover Cleveland signed into law on June 28, 1894. Traditionally, Labor Day is celebrated with parades, picnics, barbecues, and other public gatherings. These festivities often feature speeches by labor leaders and political figures emphasizing the importance of labor in our society. Over time, Labor Day has also come to mark the unofficial end of summer, with many people taking advantage of the long weekend for vacations and family get-togethers. In conclusion, unless we were born with a huge trust fund and don't need to labor, we're all laborers. We work to get the money we need to provide for ourselves and our families. Unfortunately, the elites and their minions in D.C. are not working with us. They're actually working against us in our efforts to turn our labor into the things our families want and need. They're working feverishly to prop up a failed income payroll tax system that harms all working people, while at the same time giving them control over our lives and providing them with a lucrative income stream. The elites tell us that we're being irresponsible by not saving enough money when they continue to discourage us from saving by taxing our savings and our investment income. They tell us that if we need more money, simply work harder, while they continue to prop up a tax system that discourages hard work by rewarding harder work with higher taxes. They tell us that they're working to help American businesses and save American jobs, while they refuse to replace a tax system that favors imports and sends our jobs overseas. And finally, the elites tell us that federal deficits and the federal debt are nothing to worry about, even though they lead to inflation that robs working people of their purchasing power. The fair tax is so simple that everyone can understand it and comply with it without having to hire expensive professional help. The fair tax shows the true cost of the federal government on every retail receipt, so all of us can understand how much we're paying and determine if the benefits we're receiving are worth the cost. It helps U.S. companies compete with foreign competitors and not move overseas. It keeps jobs in the United States rather than exporting them to other countries. It permanently establishes the solvency of Social Security and Medicare, eliminates special treatment for any group of taxpayers, benefits lower income groups more than the present income payroll tax system does, and is fair. The fair tax eliminates the need to file tax returns. It eliminates the need for the IRS. It allows each of us, not the elites and their minions, to determine the amount of federal tax we pay. And the fair tax is the largest transfer of power from D.C. to the people since the Constitution was adopted. Now, D.C. is ignoring the one real solution that allows us to remain citizens and not subjects, the fair tax. The fair tax is simple, it's non-invasive, but most of all, it works. The American people will overwhelmingly support the fair tax if they're given the chance, and all of us will benefit from its enactment. The solution? Pass the fair tax. Now, why would D.C. pass the fair tax and give up an almost unlimited source of donations? Well, they won't, at least not voluntarily. The only way they will is if the rest of us demand it. Isn't it time to end this ludicrous tax collection system and the IRS along with it? Now, there's going to be a vote on the fair tax in the House of Representatives. We now have the opportunity to force all members of the House to show where they stand. They can vote for the present income payroll tax system, or they can vote for the fair tax. They can support the corrupt income tax in the IRS, or they can vote to eliminate it. It can't be any simpler than that. They can hide the true cost of their government, or they can pass the fair tax and show everyone the true cost of government on every retail receipt. And finally, they can support the largest transfer of power from the government to the people, the fair tax, or they can vote against it. Now, if members think the fair tax needs to be amended to address a problem, they can propose the change. Don't let them get away with rejecting the entire bill because it has a perceived flaw that can be easily addressed, and if it's a real flaw, corrected in the final bill. And don't think for an instant there aren't any flaws in the income tax. Help us bring about real tax reform and stop future IRS abuses. By contributing or investing $10.40 a month, you help provide a financial base to Americans for Fair Taxation. Now, if you can make larger contributions/investments, these will be used not for salaries, as we're all volunteers, but for the needed updates to our economic studies, which will be vital for all future years. Please go to fairtax.org to invest in AFFT and help us pass the fair tax. It's an investment in your and your family's future.
This has been the Weekly Chairman's Report, written by Steve Hayes, President of Americans for Fair Taxation. Check back every week for news and information about the fair tax, and learn why the fair tax should replace our antiquated federal income tax system. If you'd like to receive a copy of the Chairman's Report in your inbox every week, sign up at fairtax.org.